you for coming out today. Thank you for bracing the weather this morning. My name is Philip Antoine, and I would like to welcome you to the Central Bank first training session on the Know Your Money training on the new $100 Polymer, which will be replacing our old $100 cotton note, which you all are quite aware of. And let me welcome those who are joining us live or via the internet this morning. I say good morning to you as well, and good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. Today we have two experts that are with us today, which will be doing the presentation from Delarue. And most of you may be aware that Delarue is the company that produces or make our banknotes. They have been making banknotes for us since time immemorial. They are over 200 years old, and they make banknotes for over 140 countries throughout the world. So this morning we have with us Mr. Gareth Evans. He is a regional manager for Delarue. He has over 17 years experience working with Delarue. He will be presenting to us today. Also with him is Dr. Jackie Tick. She is the technical director for Delarue. She has over 23 years experience with Delarue. She is an expert on banknotes and polymer. So I would like you to help me welcome this morning to this podium, Mr. Evans, who will be presenting to us this morning. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. Good morning, everybody. As Philip has said, my name is Gareth Evans. I work for Delarue. I'm here today to present to you on some of the new features of the new $100 polymer banknote. As Philip said, I have over 17 years experience in the industry, and I'm here with Jackie now. So I've been involved in the introduction of polymer projects across the world, in the UK and recently in the Caribbean, with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank as well. So any questions on the notes, we should be able to answer them. We're going to focus today very much on teaching you about some of the new features of the new notes. The bank has prepared various, I'm standing right in front of the screen, I do apologise, various media in terms of posters and brochures that will be useful, and these will be circulated for the public and for commercial banks and credit unions and such like, to assist with the training and the authentication and the familiarity on the new note. The first question may be asked is kind of why polymer? It's moving from cotton to polymer. It's quite simple, really. We're going to focus on three things. Polymer banknotes are more durable. They last somewhere over two and a half times longer than the paper equivalent. They're not indestructible. I'm not going to stand here and say that they're indestructible. Many people say that claim that they could be. They just last longer in circulation, which makes them more cost effective over time. It's one of the reasons why the central bank has chosen to move to polymer. They're also more secure than paper banknotes. The traditional features of a paper banknote that you'll be familiar with, watermarks, for example. The polymer banknotes, because they use a clear plastic film, you're able to put clear windows into them and really integrate things into the design, which make them a bit more secure. And finally, and something which is extremely important this day and age, and something which is quite new, is the ability to use polymer to make the banknotes more accessible to vulnerable users in society, particularly the visually impaired and the blind community. We'll talk a little bit more about the feature itself in a little while, but we've spent quite a lot of time with charities and various organisations around the world that support and work on behalf of these groups. And the feedback on the new tactile feature that we can include on polymer banknotes has been exceptional so far. So we're hoping that will help the population of Trinidad and Tobago that have visual impairments, that it will help them have greater access to the currency. Okay, so if you draw your attention to the screens, there is your new $100 banknote on polymer. Personally, I love the design. I think it's great. I think it's bright, it's clean. It builds on a lot of the images and the content from the existing or from the previous cotton banknotes. You'll see, so it still has the central bank building, and the crest is prominent and the bird. But obviously it's a much more modern and cleaner look and feel compared to the older notes. So I hope you all like the design. We're very proud of it as the company that has worked on it, and we know that the central bank are pleased with it also. So we carry out a lot of Know Your Money training around the world. I've personally delivered some here in Trinidad and Tobago with the bank. We always tell the public to focus on a few things. And what we'd like to do now is just to run through some of those just to make sure that you know what you're doing. So we always ask the public to focus on the four elements, the three main ones for the public, and then the fourth one for tellers, commercial banks, somebody that might have a small tool. So the first thing you will do with the banknote is you will feel it. When you get it, you will feel the banknote. Immediately, when you're given a banknote, you know if something, a lot of the time you will know straight away if something's not quite right just from feeling the banknote. The polymer banknotes do feel slightly different to the cotton ones, so we will come on to that. But that's still the first thing you do. The first thing you do is you touch the note. The second thing that we would ask the public to do is to look at the notes. Make yourself familiar with the features. Hold the note up to the light. Actually look and see. The polymer banknotes will have a clear window that you can see through. So that would be step number 2. Step number 3 would be to tilt the note. There are features on the note that may shimmer or move or will only be visible when you hold them at a certain angle. So we're going to just focus on that as well. So that will be step number 3. And then finally, as I mentioned, there will be people that may have small tools that they can use to help authenticate the note. That may be in the form of a simple magnifying glass. It may be in the form of a little UV lamp, for example. We do have some in the room, so at the end of the session when we're talking through some of the features, we can let you all have a look at what we're talking about, but we have the presentation on screen now. Okay, so any questions so far? No? Okay, great. So if we move on then, this is the new note. We'll highlight some of the features. We have a short video that plays, and then we'll go through the features individually once the video is completed. Talk now in a little bit more detail about some of those features. Okay, so the first thing I told you to do, if you remember, was to feel the note. Okay, so the notes have a different feel to what you may be used to with the cotton banknotes. I know you currently have a Polymer 50 in circulation as well, so you will be slightly more familiar with it. But the notes do feel smoother than paper. but yet they do still have a distinctive feel. You will just be able to feel some of the raised areas of print. But most importantly, what we want you to focus on now is on the reverse of the note. In this bottom corner here, you have a tactile feature. It's embossed into the note. It's a series of dots in the shape of a cross or an X. Okay? And this is to allow those people with visual impairments to actually authenticate or to recognize the denomination that they are holding. Okay? This feature is only possible on polymer banknotes, which is why we hadn't introduced it previously on the cotton notes. And you will notice that the 50 in circulation currently has a shape as well. I think it's a circle. And then the future denominations of the family will then have different shapes so that you can distinguish one denomination from the other. Okay. Moving on, next clicker. Okay, the next thing I asked you to do was to actually look at your note. So look at it, make sure that the images look as you would expect them to do. But the main feature we want you to focus on here, when you're looking at the note, so if I hold it up, is in this top left-hand corner, there is a clear window. Okay, so you will be used to looking at a banknote and looking for a watermark. On polymer banknotes, you're looking for the clear window. Okay, so if you hold that up, you can see your hand behind it, or you can pass something else behind it. You can, I don't know, if you want to look through it, you can do so. Okay, so this is the main public security feature that we want to promote, is the clear window. Okay, and you can see that from both sides of the note, obviously. Okay. The next feature that we want you to look for. Okay, so in this area of the note here, this blue, what's that? It's a rhombus shape, is it? Or a parallelogram from remember my school days. This feature here is a slightly darker blue in colour, and when the note is held flat, you don't really see anything. But when you hold that note up to the light, the denomination will appear as a lighter spot. Okay, so the 100 will appear in that panel. So when it's flat, you don't see it. When you hold it up to the light, you see the 100. And we've got some notes that you can do this with yourself at the back. Okay? The next thing we want you to do is tilting the note. Okay, so over this clear window, we also have printed a gold shimmering ink. So if you hold this note and you catch it in the light and you tilt it around, you will see that there is a pattern of the gold ink that will shimmer, and you can see it here on the screen if I just walk over here to just point it out. So this pattern here, and that will shimmer in the light as you tilt and move the note around to catch the light. Okay, so that's the next feature. Okay, so far we have the tactile emboss, we have the clear window, we have the hidden numeral, and we have the gold ink. Okay. So they're really the four main public security features that anybody can do, anybody can look for, anybody can feel for, okay, without the use of any tools. Okay, so now we're going to show a couple of the features. You may be familiar with these already because they do exist on the previous $100. So under magnification, there are various areas on the note, in the top panel here, and the bottom panel here, and some of the side panels, and particularly on the reverse, that have what we call microtext. Okay, so you can only really see, if your eyesight is really good, you can just about make them out, but actually under magnification, they will be really clear, really crisp, and you'll be able to read the text, and it says 100, 100, and repeats in the panels. Okay, and then the final check we got. Every good delivery regional manager has to carry around a UV torch. So there are patches on the note, and you can see it there on the screen, that have UV features. So you can see that as I'm holding up the note. There are areas that have ultraviolet reflection. Okay, so they will glow in the presence of UV light. And I have them on the front, and we have them on the reverse of the note. Okay, so very simple. They are in multicolour, so there's two colours, which makes it more difficult to counterfeit. And it's also, there's some text in there. So if you use a combination of a UV light and a magnifier, if you've got both, then you will be able to see both of those. Okay, I know I'm running through this quite quickly, but there's just want you to focus on the few key areas. And you'll see there on the screen, that's the reverse of the note, how it looks, as I've just shown you. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're not expecting everybody to memorize these. Some people will forget what they're looking for. And as I mentioned at the start, the bank has produced various media for public awareness and education. There are posters, there are leaflets which focus on the same features that I've just been through. They're also available on the bank's website. So they are permanent resources that you can draw upon to educate. Okay. That is a very quick run through in a session. We would very welcome you now to take a look at the notes. We're open for any questions you may have on the notes features. But thank you very much for listening. Are there any questions? No questions?
I don't know if you're able to answer. You did mention the polymer would be used for the rest of the other bills. Have you all received any communication regarding the other currencies, for example, $10, $5 bills?
I think the bank has communicated that they are planning to use polymer for the rest of the series in due course, with designs in 2020. I think is what they're planning on doing. Come on, this is Trinidad. I must get more questions than this.
Can you tell us about the strength of the note?
About the strength?
Folded.
You can fold it. You do need to handle polymer banknotes in a slightly different way to cotton. They are more robust. I don't want to chew up the bank specimens, but they are more robust, so you can fold them up, and they do kind of spring back. One thing I would say is if you impart a really hard fold in the note, then it will stay, and you'll be familiar with that from your 50, I'm sure. But you know, it's very difficult to tear. It's very difficult to rip or to destroy physically. No, it's like, no, perfect. Questions is good.
I know in the UK there was a polymer bill, and there was an issue over animal fats. Is that in the bill that we have for Trinidad, in this new $100 bill?
I would need to double check that, but the base substrate is essentially the same as what the Bank of England uses. And I think the Bank of England did a lot of work and investigation into alternatives and decided to stick with the one that they're using. So the base film would be the same as the Bank of England.
Thank you.
How difficult would you say this bill is
to duplicate? You're never going to stop people trying. There are people in all societies who fall on hard times, or people who just aren't particularly nice, that try to do these things to make a living. You'll never stop people trying. One thing that does make it more difficult is the clear window. Okay, so a lot of the counterfeits that we see in this region are what we might call kind of homemade or nuisance type counterfeits, where people use scanners and color copiers and things like that to replicate. But what we would see is most of those would be done on paper, and then you can't have the clear window in. So they are more secure for that reason, and also we would get the public to focus on the clear window to identify any notes that they feel are suspicious. Okay? Any other questions? And the good thing is obviously I forgot to mention that, you know, if like me, you are incapable of eating doubles without making a mess, then, you know, if you do spill it on the banknote, you can at least wipe it off and you know, put it back in your pocket, and you don't get pepper down your trousers like I did last time I was here. Okay. Any other questions at all? No? Please, by all means, if you'd like to make your way to the back of the room, we have some specimens. They are specimens, I've been told strictly, we have a security guard on the door. They are to remain in this room, as are the tools with which you authenticate them. But feel free to please have a look at the notes.